I'm Piercy Janwell, and you're listening to Unsubscribed. Every episode, I sit down with business leaders to help you question everything you thought you knew about marketing. If you enjoy this show, please do subscribe and leave a review on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. Now, on to this episode. My guest today is Meghan Mayday. Meghan is the head of marketing infrastructure and automation at Google Cloud, where she's responsible for managing the MarTech stack and campaign production. She's got over 15 years experience in marketing operations and says her leadership formula is people plus passion plus process. So welcome to the Unsubscribe podcast, Meghan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Oh,
Great
it's so
intro.
awesome. Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited for this conversation. One thing I always like to start off with is, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into marketing and marketing operations?
Yeah, definitely. So, my journey into marketing. So it started, back in college. I am a Michigan native, so I went to Western Michigan University, and I knew I wanted to be in tech, and I didn't quite know what that meant, being a new graduate. But I thought, let's give it a go. And so in 2008-ish, I moved to San Francisco. No network, no anything, and figured out how to be in tech. And what it meant early on in my career was I started off in event management. I knew I was organized and detail oriented. And so I thought to myself, I think I can do well in the event management space. And then as the years progressed, my first boss asked, "Hey, have you heard of this thing called Pardot, and will you implement it?" And I said, "Sure." She's like, "You're good at technical things." And I said, "Sure." And that was kind of my step one into the marketing automation space. It started with, audience segmentation for events, and it's evolved from there.
That's so cool. And what was it about tech that got you interested? How did you know that that's what you wanted to do?
I liked the entrepreneurial spirit of it all. I first started out in startups, and so, kind of the startups are known to fail fast or, do creative things to problem solve. And so I felt I'd be good in that space. And it was in 2008. So, tech was taking off. And so, it was I thought, I wanted to be a part of that excitement.
That's awesome. And so you decided, hey, let's move to the epicenter of tech and go to San Francisco.
Yep, exactly.
And so did you know anyone there? How did you do that?
Yeah, I did not know anybody there at the time. So I'm an introvert. So, I kind of knew I had to throw myself in it. And so what I did is I had a plan. As soon as I got landed in San Francisco, my one-way ticket, I knew I needed to network and start, applying for jobs. And so I spent at least 6 hours a day customizing my cover letter. I did cover letters back then. I don't know if cover letters are still a thing. But cover letter, my resume, and getting out and going to meetups and really, giving it my best go.
That's awesome. And how long did it take you to land that first job?
It took about 3 months to land my first job.
Wow.
And the person who hired me, she's great. Her name is Angela, and she hired me again at another company later in my career. So we had a really good collaborative working style together, and she's helped me a lot in my career. Yeah,
That's
she was
awesome.
Yeah, she was the one to first say, like, based on these skills, I think you'd be good in operations, and gave me that opportunity. So yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Angela. Thank you.
Nice, Angela. Major shout outs. Yeah, we need those people that, see potential and people and give them that opportunity to show and prove themselves.
100%. Yeah, I could not agree more.
So, I mean, take me through those first 3 months. It must have been stressful to be in a new city, to be spending 6 hours a day applying for jobs. And, you know, how did you stay motivated and keep going?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So, it's all about, always having like a positive mental attitude about it. And every no, you're closer to a yes. And so, what I did is, I made sure to also like have social time and meet people. But I was like highly hyper focused on, okay, I got to find a job, and then I can go from there. Yeah, it was quite an experience. Like looking back, like you said, like moving to a new city, not knowing anybody, within 3 months finding a great job that I was at for a few years, like, and a great mentor. I feel like I really like hit the jackpot and everything was aligned for that to happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that first manager mentor is so huge in your
Yeah.
career to help you grow and
Yeah.
progress. And so you had this opportunity, it sounded like, with Pardot
Hmm.
that got presented to you, and sounded like it could use some of your skill sets if you were a technical person.
Hmm.
But I'm sure there was probably a bit of doubt as well, like, can I do this? Or were you just like, oh no, this is a great opportunity. Let's go for it.
I thought I like at the time I was like a little nervous, but having someone have the confidence in me could definitely helped. And so I was like, okay, we will just give this a go. I did work with an agency who was definitely like helpful in coaching and, working on like setting up all those like nurture flows and like those first, emails with tokens. It's come so far, but yeah, it was, um, that's how I got started. Mistakes have definitely been made along the way, but I think when you like make a mistake or if something doesn't go right, it's just an opportunity to reevaluate like your process or your method and figure out what can I do differently next time. Um, Asking for feedback, I think, has been critical in my career growth. Even going back to, you know, getting my first job in the Bay Area, I was like, what did I say to like get the role? And she basically said it came down to saying, I was highly organized and that's exactly the skill she was looking for.
Mm,
And so I think, it's important to get feedback, positive and constructive. Like even, celebrate wins 100% for sure. But what what does top learnings can I take away to make sure my next project or initiative is also, a success?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Definitely. And so when you look back, like, what do you think, what do you attribute your success to in your career? Was it taking those risks, like trying something new for the first time? Was it having the great mentor? Was
Hmm.
it always looking for that feedback? What do you think helped you now to get this role that you're in now at Google?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I have like a mantra around kind of stay focused, but also be flexible. So you can stay focused to a goal of launching a new marketing program. How you get there, you might need to be a little flexible. You might need to be inflexible in time, in your approach, in different aspects of that. So I think that like with that mantra I have for myself, I apply it to tactical things like day-to-day programs and what I'm doing, what my checklist looks like for the day, but I'm also doing it on my, career path. So I started out in event marketing because I was highly organized, detail oriented. Now, 15 years later, I'm in marketing, operations and automation because of those skills or strengths, but also because I've developed different skills along the way. And so, when you think about how you want your career to evolve, maybe you have a goal of, being like a director or a C-level someday. What steps do you need to take to get there? And remember to be flexible, stay focused on your goal, but flexible in how you get there. Has helped me, through good times and through wavy times.
Yeah. What I really like about what you said there is that you're very self-aware of your strengths and figuring out how can I use, how can I put myself in a position to use my strengths to be successful, but at the same time learning new skills along the way that help you progress your career.
Yeah, definitely. I think I know my strengths well as my growth opportunities. I haven't always, like, for example, I hadn't always been a confident public speaker. So I knew in order to improve that skill and strengthen it, I would need to put myself in situations where I could develop that and learn how to get more comfortable in those areas as well.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, public speaking, I think, is one of those ones that a lot of people out there, want to practice and
Yeah.
improve on, and I think that's all it is. It's like anything: the more you practice it, the more comfortable you get, the better you get at it. And yeah, I love too that it's not just about your strengths, but your weaknesses too, so that you can always improve.
Exactly. And like with public speaking, one of the things you can do now is you can practice in VR. So you can go, on a platform and practice presenting there, which can be helpful. And yeah, just finding, opportunities to strengthen that muscle.
Yeah.
Even if
I
it
never thought of that. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. I gotta get my Oculus out and try that out.
Definitely recommend.
um, so I want to talk a little bit about your current role as head of marketing infrastructure and automation at Google Cloud. Can you explain exactly, like, what does that entail?
What does that mean? So currently, my current role at Google, I'm responsible for infrastructure and automation. So infrastructure, you can think about like all the tools and operations and processes that we have in place to get, to launch like emails and landing pages. And automation is the aspect of evolving what we do. How do we automate? How do we, do things on repeat at scale? And how do we think about giving, just improving how people are operating from a efficiency perspective. We want to empower people with, the right tools and systems to do their jobs well. What are those, and how do we get them implemented and launched across the company?
Right on. That's amazing. Yeah. Emails and landing pages are very near and dear to my heart, yes. and process as well.
Yeah.
Can you maybe just share a little bit, just so that other people listening can understand, like, the scale of marketing at Google Cloud and the marketing ops team? Like, how big is the team? How many ops people are we talking about? How many Marketo programs are you launching, every week or month?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I think we are definitely operating at scale. I would say within a year, we're launching thousands of programs. So hundreds of programs a month, for sure. So it's always exciting. It's fun. Every time there's a new program concept or idea, we get to collaborate with the marketers to figure out how to best, apply Marketo and automation to their program. It's fun. It's always changing, and there's definitely never a boring day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow, that is a ton of programs. And Megan, you talked about going from like tech startups and now you're at, one of the largest technology companies in the world. What would you say are some of the benefits, and what gets easier as you go on the enterprise, and what gets harder when you get to be at a bigger company?
Great question. I think what gets easier is like the structure in how we operate. There's a lot of intent, focus, roadmaps on how we plan to go out and execute at a enterprise company. Startups are a little more, in my experience, just a little more scrappy. So, for example, my husband is currently at a startup and he's like, I put together a nurture campaign today. I'm like, end to end, the entire thing? And he said, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Like something like that at an enterprise, it takes, lots of feedback, eyes, that type of thing. So although it's just like a different way of executing, but yeah, I thought that just cracked me up when he was like, I put together a nurture campaign today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I used to work at IBM, and at that time we were, I think, almost 400,000 people.
Wow.
And yeah, there were definitely days where I was just like, I wish I could just do this myself and get something out the door. But then I went to a startup and I'm like, oh, I really miss all of the people that I had who were like amazing at all the pieces that they do.
Yeah. I've found in my career, especially at Google, I've become like much more specialized, which is, there's pros and cons, but if you're becoming specialized in an area you're very passionate about and where you want to be, that's a good thing. And so, yeah, over the last, few years, my role has changed and evolved, but I really enjoy where I am in terms of being at the forefront of automation and how we operate. It's rewarding. We get to, I've always been someone who's like sat in the background, like even in high school, like I was like assembling the play. I wasn't the star. So, like I was, in the back, doing the paintings of the background and stuff like that. So I've always enjoyed kind of like being in the back and like being in service. And that's definitely how I think of my operations role is I'm in service of the organization and how do I help people do the best they can do.
Yeah, that's as you're telling me that story, I was actually just talking about this on the weekend. Was when I was in high school, my like homeroom teacher ran the drama club, and so she basically voluntold me that I was going to be like a stagehand.
Yes.
And as you were saying that, I'm like, wow, I am a marketing ops person for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk a little bit about emails and landing pages. You mentioned that's a big part of what you do at Google. What, just for a way of background, like what is your background with email and landing pages? Like, do you code? Are you fluent with HTML and CSS, and how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I got into it out of, necessity. When you're at a startup, another, one of the good things about being in a startup is you get to learn a lot of skills quickly and figure out what you like and what you don't like. And so I was responsible for launching, landing pages and emails, whether it be out of Pardot, Marketo, Acton. I've used a lot of different tools. HubSpot. Did I mention HubSpot? Anyway, so yeah, I would say like coding isn't my strength. I know enough to be dangerous, but I know enough to know to get the right people on the team who do have that expertise. And so I approach landing page and email development like the same. How do we templatize? How do we scale? Things like having a standard brand template and voice and tone are important, and it helps to connect your company's story across the web and digitally. So I think it's really important that you have landing pages and emails template and copy that reflect who the organization is. It helps from a messaging standpoint, but also the digital footprint. So yeah.
And when you think of those other platforms, the Marketos, the Pardots, the Eloquos, or whatever of the world, how do you think they are in terms of email and landing page creation out of the box?
Out of the box, it's I love my platforms. However, in the spirit of feedback, it hasn't always, you have to have that coding skill. So it's not as easy to, hop in as a non-technical marketer and, go in and create your landing pages and your emails. There is a technical element to it. You have to be able to QA code and, make sure that pages and emails are rendering properly across different platforms. So the concept of building a landing page or email, it sounds so simple. And then when you get to the details of it all, there's all these technical elements that you need to be thinking about in order to make sure that you have like the best experience possible for your audience. Yeah.
And I mean, I would imagine you're hiring quite a few marketers at Google Cloud. What do you see with them in terms of like coding skills now? And what do you think that will look like in the future?
That's such a good question, because we have so many other things. Like there's like the industry and space is changing a lot with AI and different tools. So when I think of what a marketer needs to do in order to launch their program, email and landing page is a piece of that pie, but they also have to do a ton of other things: sales enablement, finding venues, content, speakers, food and beverage, like all of these other things that I'm sure I'm also missing. They have to think about. So I think about how can we make landing page and email the easiest process for them so they can focus on these other areas of the program for them. And so I think marketers, there's a need to know how to best target for your emails, how to best, create an engaging landing page. I think those are important skills to have. But I don't ever expect like a marketer in like the field to have a deep understanding of like all the back end stuff, which is where we come in, and that's our skill set.
Yep. And when you look at marketing operations as a function within, enterprise companies, where do you see the creation of emails and landing pages? Is that something that marketing operations should be doing? Is that something that marketers should be doing? How do you view that piece of it now, and where do you think that is going as well?
Yeah, so I think we should be empowering, like kind of going back to like the ethos of my role. Like we want to empower the marketers with the right tools to do their role. And landing page and emails is a part of that. So enabling them with like a tool that will allow them to go in and easily edit and modify copy. That's, you know, I think that's a positive thing. And we want marketers to do that. Like they own the copy of their program and are responsible for the messaging and the strategy around messaging to different personas for a program. So we need to enable them with those tools. Where we focus is we can help them, we can consult and help them optimize what their landing page or email like layout looks like. How we can, amplify their landing page across different platforms, how we can optimize how their email performs with email best practices. So on the operations side, I think of operations as being a consultant and experts in our in our domain of operations, and balancing that, with like getting, we're an engine and we need to get programs out the door and help them do that. So it's kind of like a balance of the two. How do we consult and empower the marketer to, get their landing page and email copy as perfect as they would like it? And then how do we help them, get the message to the right people?
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, definitely share a lot of that vision for the future here as well. I think what we see a lot of right now, there's so few really great marketing operations people out there, and they have so much on their plates.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we still see a lot of them getting bogged down in like building out emails and landing pages. And I love how you talk about empowering the marketers, right? The other marketers on the team with the right technology and empowering them with those best practices. I think that's amazing. You talked a little bit there earlier about AI. You can't do a podcast today without talking about AI. So yeah. I'd love to get your take on, maybe are you using any AI right now in your marketing ops function, and where do you think the future of AI is going to go as it pertains to marketing ops?
Yeah, there's so much that can be done within marketing ops and AI for sure. I've been using it so much personally. So for example, writing is not my strong suit. And so if you need a copy editor just for your emails in general, it can write an email beautifully with a few tweaks. We definitely have plans, and we have like AI on the roadmap and how can we integrate it. I think I can't wait to dig into the data around, AI being able to optimize email, copy, sends, engagement, and just really like bubbling that up. That's, basically we're on that journey, but, how do we like improve that and make it, how do we empower the marketer to leverage AI in that way? It's an exciting time to be in tech, again, every few years. They kind of say like history doesn't crawl, it leaps. And I think this is like a leap moment in technology. And I think we're all kind of on the journey together, figuring out the best way.
It's reassuring the way that you say it like that. We're all on this journey together. And I'm very excited for it to be in like Google Drive and G Suite and just have Bard everywhere helping me in the
Yes.
applications that I use every day.
Yeah.
I know that you were at Adobe Summit a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Curious on your key takeaways from this year's Adobe Summit, and maybe one or two things that you were excited about or that you learned in Vegas.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, I really liked how there was a lot of sessions on how teams are structured and how you should best structure your operations team. I thought that was really interesting, and I'm glad we're talking about it, and there's ideas around the best models to help to for supporting functions. Yeah, there was a good one where I think it was IBM, and they discussed their team structure and operating model, and how they kind of break things out into pods and with different expertise. And so that was a really big takeaway. And so kind of going back to my ethos of people and process, it's how we organize people in the best people and teams to be in the best roles and be able to deliver what needs to be delivered for the organization. I liked that. And then I liked there were a few sessions on kind of like just digging into the details of the process. We were laughing about earlier, sending an email and a landing page seems so simple, but when you have global teams involved, how do you organize all of the tactical items of what needs to get done? How do you optimize that? So I thought those were some good sessions and learnings I had at the summit.
Amazing, yeah. Yeah, I didn't see that IBM session, but I'm gonna have to dig that up now.
It was a good one.
Going into your formula there, people, passion, and process.
Yeah.
I had a few questions for that.
Yeah.
And maybe you can take these one at a time, but how do you find the right people? How do you know if they're passionate? And then what are your thoughts on, process is important, it's critical at an enterprise, but how do you still foster an environment where people can be creative? So kind of a 3-part question.
Yeah, definitely. So I should have had a notebook. First
question. So the first one was just, how do you find the right people? What, do you, I'd love to hear how you do that.
Yeah, in terms of, finding the right people, I think, when you want people with a foundational knowledge of the, skills, but also I always look for team members who are, creative and creative in problem solving. So kind of going back to the idea of being focused but flexible, as a leader, I don't want to I'm not top down, so I want people to come up with creative problem resolutions themselves. And so I think looking for people that have creative problem solving skills is really critical. And you can apply that to different areas and different levels of career. So I like to see people who are interested in problem solving and feeling comfortable, not having all the answers, not knowing all the answers, but, still getting to the end goal.
Nice. Yeah, that's, I did interview at Google at a really long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was a full day interview with like
Mhm.
7 different people. And I remember some of the questions they asked me. I still remember them like 20 years later because they're just super different. And I didn't get the job. But,
Maybe for the best, but
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, do you, I'm curious in the interview process, like, are there a lot of questions that Google gives you that they recommend, or do you still have a lot of freedom to kind of ask your own questions to assess someone's problem solving skills?
it's a, I think there's like a balance of both. So, asking, questions related to the role and how they think about, different operations, tactics and practices, is important in the process. But yeah, I think it's a healthy mix of both.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, my next one on leadership is just how do you assess someone's passion level and like how passionate they are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, when people, in my experience, when people come into roles or are interested in a specific topic, they have some like level of passion around that. And so I think it's my job as a manager to find the best role that will allow them to excel in their passions and learn, new skills. So if you're passionate about data, there's plenty of opportunity to have projects in email marketing around, data and how to leverage, data in email and how to surface findings to stakeholders and, help them get the message, their message out that way. So I work to find, what they're passionate about and how I can apply it within the operations setting. And I think that's what builds a team, right? Not everybody in one team should have or can have like the same exact passions and skills. You need a variety, so people can learn from each other, but also you have the right strengths across the team.
Nice. So it's really, talking to people, understanding what their passion is, and then
Yeah,
making sure they're in the role where they can really use that
exactly.
effectively.
Yeah.
And then the last one on the process piece, and I recognize that process is critical in the enterprise setting. How do you implement process while still empowering people to be creative?
Yeah, I love that because there's definitely a balance there. So when I think of process, I think of what process can I implement to allow more creative space. So, for example, when we're doing things, when we're, for example, building landing pages, if we had to build a brand new landing page every time the request came across our desk, we would just be inundated and only building out landing pages. And so when I think about process, I want process to be effective as well. I don't want process for like the sake of process. So, in the example of the landing page, okay, so we are an organization that runs thousands of programs a year. What are our top programs? What does the organization need? Maybe we need 5 or 6 templates to choose from. Okay, now that we have 5 or 6 templates to choose from, how can we make the pages modular to allow for some flexibility, but still be able to scale? And then what that does is when we think about process helping and giving time back. Now team members have more time to think creatively about building copy, maybe a landing page enhancement, like maybe there's a new way we could be doing something, and thinking about things like that. So that's how I think when I think about process. I love process. I have process like in my personal life everywhere. But how do we implement meaningful process and process that gives people the time back to be creative and think creatively?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, be creative in the right areas as well. Like, if you already have a template or layouts, it's like, okay, well, where can you really focus that creativity to make the biggest impact?
Yeah, and ideas can come from everywhere. Like, so for someone, working in the region who maybe is building off of that template set, maybe they have like a better way. I love asking teams, what are your workarounds? Because if there's a workaround to a process, that means your process isn't as good as it could be. And so we ask like, okay, like, do you have any workarounds to this process? And ask that because I bet you someone has found a better way and they just haven't, had the opportunity to surface it. Yeah.
That's a great tip. I like that one. All right, let's get into our rapid fire questions here. We ask these to everybody. What is one marketing trend you would unsubscribe from?
I'm going to pre-apologize to all of my product marketing friends, but I would unsubscribe from white papers.
Yeah.
They're long and it might be my ADHD talking, but I don't know who, with all the grace, I don't know who has time to read a white paper that is pages long. Especially we're in the Twitter generation and we like short, concise
140
things.
Characters. Yeah. Truth to that. Is email dead?
Definitely not. Email has been around for decades, and that's for a reason. Things like social platforms and different platforms, those can come and go, but email is pretty consistent because it's a great, effective way to communicate with your audience. You own that domain and that communication channel. And so I don't think email is dead at all. But, email can be fun and it should continue to be fun. What I see marketers kind of like get wrong is like marketing should be fun and it's a two-way communication. So if you're sending emails and people aren't responding, that's communication back that your message might be wrong, your audience might be wrong. And like to cut through the noise, like you can be fun and creative in emails. Don't be afraid.
Yes.
There was one in a past life, we had just gotten back from a big conference and we had to send our follow-up email. I'm like, how many follow-up emails do you get from conferences? And so I suggested that we just have an email with 3 buttons. One was, yes, I want to talk to sales. The other was like, sign me up for your newsletter. And the third one was like, I was just there for the swag. And so people could say like, look, I just scanned my badge because I wanted to get the cupcake and please don't email me, So it can be fun and creative for sure.
The analytical side of me has to know how that performed.
It did well. So I even got a call out on Twitter. Like someone was like,
"Oh wow, there you
yeah." I've also been called out on Twitter for not great email things, so I'll keep that positive one for now.
Yeah. Feedback though, right? Good and bad.
Exactly.
Gotta hug your haters sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you do for fun, Meghan?
Oh, yeah. For fun, well, I moved to Texas about 4 years ago now. So I'm really enjoying the weather here. It is like sunny and 76 degrees outside right now. I really enjoy hiking. I'm getting into gardening. I have two very active dogs that just keep me busy, and they keep me balanced as well. Like, for some reason, they know exactly when 5:30 comes, and if I'm not closing down, they're like, "Let's go already."
It's go time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
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 Even during the pandemic, they could tell my voice changed when I said, "Okay, bye everybody." And on a meeting, and my dog would get up and be like, "Okay, now can we go outside?" So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny.
Nice built-in work-life balance.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
who is one person you admire in the business community and why?
Yeah, I admire Seth Godin a lot. He's been in the industry for so long. I think he has a lot of great advice, and I'm always impressed by his consistency. He has a daily email he sends out. So I really admire him for making the practice in his work, is what I take away most from him. It's really admirable to like set that intention and deliver on that consistently and daily for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw him speak at the Martech conference in Boston like a few years ago,
Yeah.
and it was really good.
Yeah, he's a great public speaker. Yeah.
What's one piece of career advice that you've picked up over the years that you think might help others?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the be focused but flexible, I think, is definitely something you can apply to your career and your day to day. I'd also say it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, be sure to pace yourself and take care of yourself. And think about, where you want to be and what you might want to do to get there. I remember like earlier in my career, I was like, I want to be a director by 30. I'm like, someone's like, great. Well, what does that mean and why? Long story short, I did not get to that goal. However, I had other goals that I've met along the way. So just kind of thinking about the why behind your goal. Like, if you want to be a director, why? Do you just want the title? Like, or do you want to be in service and help people and coach people? Those are very different things. And then the last thing I would say is like, ask for help early. Mentors help so much. You can learn from, different people and get really good advice. And having mentors has really helped me get out of my head and think about things from a different perspective, which is always good.
Amazing. And then last one, who else should we have on the Unsubscribe podcast?
Ooh, good one. Well, I think I have this other friend, Meghan. She is amazing. She's really funny. She's a very creative marketer. And if you want to talk creative marketing, I think she could definitely be a really good fit.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. We want all of the Megans.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not biased on the name, but
yeah. Well, Meghan, thank you so much. It's been an incredible conversation, hearing about your journey through marketing operations from startups to one of the biggest technology companies in the world at Google. We talked about emails and landing pages, some of the challenges in the enterprise, your leadership philosophy, and how to find and really get people focused on their passions that in turn help the whole team. You shared a ton of great career advice, I think, for marketing operations people out there. And I know I learned a lot. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to Unsubscribed, a podcast created by NAC. If you enjoyed this episode of Unsubscribed, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. If you have any feedback or want to chat, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter at marketing_101. Cheers.